Namaste and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sathology Debunking Mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means study or science. Sathology means a science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology. Myth means a fake lie or imagination. Mythology means a study or science of fake lie or imagination. The word mythology was first used against the Indian scriptures, Vedic scriptures, or the Vedic histories, because in the Christianization period, they had to prove that the local culture is inferior to the invading faith coming from papal bulls right from the Rome. We had a Roman export, big export for God, for gold, glory, and God. That was the last word. God was the last word. Anyway, my new book is coming out, A Curse on the Natives, which talks a lot about this. Uh, I have a very, very special guest who has authored Mahabharat Unraveled, Emmy Ganatra. And let us welcome her. Welcome, Emmy.
Namaste. Thank you so much for having me again.
Emmy, what's the full name? Nobody must have asked you.
So it's Ami Ganatra. So
Ami
Ami is
Ganatra.
my name. Yeah.
Is really a Ami name? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't it
Ami is a
mean
Gujarati word
Gujarati word for water?
for Amrit.
Amrit. Oh,
Yes, nectar.
learned something new. Okay. Wow. So the when we talk about coming straight to the topic of Mahabharata, and we did a last show in which you spoke about all those things. Today we're going to coming on Karna. So before we start off, just one line and then we'll go more into detail. Was Karna a good man or a bad man?
According to Vyasa's Mahabharat, he was not a good man. So he is one of the villains, or rather, one of the persons who wanted the war maybe more than even Duryodhana.
And no, gladly put it. This is the beauty of an author is that just straight out facts, no politics, no emotions, no drama here. Is that he's not a good man. No, now the many people they say Dan Veer Karna. My logic to that is very simple. Is that you can be the biggest evil person and you can do charity also. Isn't it possible? Yeah.
Very much possible. Very much possible. And I think even there, it's his ego. When it comes to Dan as well, it's mainly to boost his ego than anything else, especially when it came to making a choice between his friend and, doing charity for his ego. So if we go into detail into that episode as well, because we have one episode mentioned where his Danvirta is sort of brought out, and that is when Indradev, Arjun's biological father, goes to him to get his kavach and kundal. So now Karna had been warned that Indradev was coming to get his kavach and kundal. Now at that time, it was very clear that the war was going to happen with the Pandavas. Now, when the war is going to happen, and Karna has been the one who has been pushing for this war endlessly, he did not allow Duryodhan to negotiate at any point in time to let and give Indraprasth back to Pandav. So that is why this war happened, because Karna wanted to fight Arjun. So now when it came to the point where he had to choose between being stronger in the war versus Arjun, and on the other hand, his name of being somebody who gives big charities, Danveer, as we said. He chose to be a Danveer in spite of being warned that Indradev is coming. Acha, and then when it came to being Danveer, came to charity, he did give away his Kavach Kundal, but then it was not a one-way Danveerta. He requested Indra to give him a weapon, which he could then use for Arjun, which was called the Indrastra. So he gave away his Kavach Kundal. He got the Indra Astra in return. So while he should have been very careful that if he wanted the war and if he wanted Duryodhana to win, he should have not given away his Kavach Kundal. Of course, on the other side, even with the Kavach Kundal, he was defeated in the war. With both the Gandharvas, he had run away. And in the Virat Yuddha, when it was Arjun alone by himself, even at that time, Karna was defeated. What the Kavach Kundal did was it saved him from death. So he wouldn't have died. That would have still made him a formidable opponent. So yes, he was Danveer in the sense he gave away stuff, but when it came to loyalty towards his friend, again he chose his ego, his name, that I am the greatest of them all. I'm the greatest Danveer. That is also why he wanted to fight Arjun, to show that he was the greatest warrior. And per me, and even per Vyasdev ji in Mahabharat, he is neither.
Most of the people don't read the versions of Mahabharata, and they somehow the TV serials and the media has created an image Danveer Karna, and people do not realize that these are the tactics of the leftist, or I don't know, called unintelligent academics and Western academics, to create like poking in the nose of somebody else's food. That's what they do. And the Indian leftists are so uh, unintelligent. This is the most civilized word I can use for them, that they copy like a pirate. They just steal it and words and paste it in some lectures, and they say, "Oh, there needs to be a paper on this." The papers are published for truth, not for lies. And maybe you can try that. It is debunked, like the Aryan invasion theory is debunked. So the instances of Karna instigating Duryodhan to keep Draupadi disrespectfully on his lap while she was not fully clothed. People mistake that. Which civilized man, uneducated man, or educated man, or somebody like who is respectable will do like that? What is your view on this?
The Vastraharan episode of Draupadi, I think it's a travesty if we think of it, yeah. And Karna's role, I think it's worse than even Shakuni in that, because Shakuni is playing the dice. Shakuni is definitely instigating Yudhishthir to stake everybody. But what Karna does is beyond imaginable. He is the one who calls Draupadi a bandhiki. Bandhiki means prostitute. In the entire Mahabharata, no one, not even Duryodhan, has used such a word for Draupadi. But Karna calls her bandhiki, a prostitute. Why? Because she has 5 husbands. Yeah. He says any lady can have only one husband, but if she has 5 husbands, she has to be a prostitute. And now that she's a prostitute and she's a dasi and she has become a slave because Yudhishthira has lost her, she can be brought to the assembly in one vastra, like the ek ambardhara, the one dress that she was wearing, or she can be brought vivastra. She can be brought naked also, and it's not a problem. This line is actually said by Karna, that she's a bandhiki and now she's a slave. So even if she comes in one cloth or she comes without cloths, it's perfectly okay. There is for a lady to come like that, it's no problem in an assembly. And hence he instigates first Duryodhan to call Draupadi in the assembly when everybody else, especially Vidur and Vikarna, are opposing it. That is also not enough. Karna is the one who actually tells Dushasan that Vasansi Upahara, make her naked, take her cloth away. This also is coming from Karna. Duryodhan is not saying this. Karna is saying this, that Vasansi Upahara, take away her cloth. So the whole Vastraharan episode itself is basically prompted by Karna, the person who people love to call a hero, a downtrodden, and hence, and all that he does is sort of explained away by giving other instances. But sticking to the Vastraharan episode again, even later on, when Dushasan fails to disrobe her, that time also, Karna is the one who tells Draupadi that now that your husbands are slaves and you have also been lost, now select some other husband, because now they are no more your husband. So select some other husband or go to the palace of Kauravas and serve them. So when he's saying all this, Duryodhan is now getting very happy and excited, and hence he did that lewd gesture of sort of showing his thigh to Draupadi, suggesting that she should come and sit on his lap. Because as Karna suggested, that now she doesn't have any husbands, she should be a slave and she should serve the Kauravas and Duryodhana. So this is Karna. And people sort of justify this attitude of Karna in many novels that have been written from Karna's perspective, they show that this was okay. Why? Because they say that during the Swayamvar, Draupadi Swayamvar, Draupadi had said, Sutam na varayami, I will not marry a Sutam. This is what a lot of them claim. Now it's interesting that this episode itself seems to be added on later and it is not available in most manuscripts of Mahabharata. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, BORI, which has made the critical edition, it had 1,269 manuscripts. Of that 269 manuscripts, around 230 manuscripts are of Adi Parva, in which this incident of the Swayamvar of Draupadi comes. In those 235 manuscripts, there are only 5, literally only 5 manuscripts that talk about this incident. So 230 manuscripts don't. So because majority of the manuscripts and 99%, 95% scripts, more than that, don't have this episode, it is dropped from the critical version because it clearly is an interpolation if it is not found in majority of the manuscripts. That's one. Second, even within the text, we see multiple instances of this episode where it's clear that Karna actually tried and failed. Because when Arjun comes, Arjun is dressed as a Brahmin, nobody knows he's Arjun. So when everybody else fails and Arjun comes to shoot the target during Draupadi's Swayamvar, people who are standing there are actually shown to say that, when people like Karna, Duryodhan, Shalya, they couldn't hit the target, how can this Brahmin boy hit the target? Yeah. So clearly, everybody else is saying Karna hasn't been able to shoot the target. When a reference comes to the same episode, even again in the future, in the other parvas, again it is said that Karna, Duryodhan, Shalva, none of them could hit the target, but Arjun hit the target. That is the second point. Third point, after Draupadi Swayamvar happens and Draupadi is taken away to that hut of the Kumbhar, the potter's hut, where Kunti and everybody else is staying, Drupad wants to know who these people are because he had only seen a Brahmin boy who had come and hit the target. Now he doesn't know who these people are. So he sends his Purohit, his Pandit, to that potter's hut and talk to these brothers about who they are, figure out where they are from, because Drupad is worried that his daughter is a princess. Who knows who took her away? So the Purohit goes to Yudhishthir and he tells him that the king wants to know who you are, what is your identity. Are you some Brahmin or are you a Kshatriya or are you a Vaishya or are you Shudra? Please let us know. We would like to know. And Yudhishthir says, you don't worry, your daughter is in a very good family. That said, this question of yours is actually not right to be asked now. Why? Because Yudhishthir tells the Purohit that when the Swayamvar was happening, you did not specify that the people who participate have to be of a certain gotra or a certain jati or a certain character, nothing like that. You did not make any such specifications. You only said shoot the target. So from that also we come to know that had this been specified, any jati, I mean, if no jati is specified, then how did Draupadi even say Sutam na Varyami, right? Everybody was allowed to do it. It was open for everybody. So that is about that incident of Draupadi Swayamvar and about the Vastraharan. And whenever you think Aditya is right, I would also want to talk about the Suta thing itself, which is considered as some oppressed caste or oppressed jati of Karna, because of which he gets so much sympathy.
Whenever they say Radhe, and people feel that there is a caste discrimination, which is a common word, caste discrimination. And we do not know, we also know that Sanjay was the advisor to Dhritarashtra. Now, Sanjay was not an ordinary person, we all know. People do not know. Sanjay was the disciple of Vyasdev. So he may not be a Brahmin, but he was a disciple of Vyasdev. So by his discipline relationship, he was a educated man and he was considered on par with any Brahmin. Isn't it right? He was given a Divya Drishti by Vyasdev. So now people accept Sanjay because he's in Bhagavad Gita, but they have a problem when there is an opposite view is mentioned about him. because people knew his qualities, right? Karna's qualities people knew. Dambi. Like he was
Yes.
boastful, always boasting or something.
Rini, Mani, Dambi, yes. These are the words used for him.
So so my being a devil's advocate, uh, why people bring in the caste here? Caste is a word. First of all, it's a Portuguese word. It's nothing to do with
Yes.
India.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aditya this caste thing for Karna is frankly the biggest hoax pulled on the Indians and whoever else reads the retellings of Mahabharata. So one, he is called Radheya because Radha and Adhirath are his foster parents, and they were of the Suta Jati. And somehow they have created this thing that Suta are some very oppressed class who did not have money, who lived a very dreadful life, very treacherous life, something of that sort. That impression is created. And because of which, then we are told that Dronacharya refuses to teach Karna, although he's very brave and very skillful. Dronacharya also refused to teach him, and he's called Sutputra. Now, as you rightly said, Sanjay was also a Suta. But then before I go into the other sutas, Sanjay, there's Kichak, the person who said Mahabharata, Agrashrava Sauti, he's a suta. Before I get there, let us at least understand what is suta. The suta jati itself. What is a suta jati? So in those times, or actually even now, there used to be a lot of intermingling of various jati. Yeah. So suta is a jati where the father is a kshatriya and mother is a brahmin. So the progenies of Kshatriya father and Brahman mother made the Suta Jati. Okay. The kind of professions which the Sutas did were of Sarthi, the charioteer, which Sanjay was, which Adhirath was. Now, one thing to understand is that people think, oh, Sarthi, array driver. Yeah, it was not that. First of all, the Sarthi's role in any battle, in any war, was very, very important. He had to understand war strategy and warfare. He had to be very brave because even he could be killed in the battlefield. He had to understand the body language of the opponent as well as the body language of his own, of the warrior that he was leading, he was driving in the battlefield. He had the responsibility of ensuring that as far as possible, whenever possible, save the life of the warrior that he's riding in that chariot. Yeah. So it was not just SIE profession. It was a profession that required lot of wisdom, lot of understanding, and lot of bravery. So it was a mix of both warriors as well as the wisdom of the Brahmins. Yeah. As the Jati itself is from Kshatriya and Brahmin. That is why Sanjay is so respected, and that is why Arjun asked Krishna to become a Sarthi. Now, if it was some Aisa Vaisa profession, then why would it would have become like an insult of Krishna if Sarthis were so bad as as that impression is created. So one is that. Second, Sutas were also warriors. There are many warriors in that Mahabharata itself mentions. One of them is actually very well known. His name is Kichak. So Kichak is said to be the commander of Virat Naresh's forces. So Virat, the kingdom of Matsya, where the Pandavas spent the last year in Agyatwas. Yeah, in incognito, the last year which they spent is in Virat's kingdom. And Virat's commander is Kichak. Now, Kichak is also the brother of Virat's wife, Sudeshna. Kichak is called a Sutputra. He comes from the kingdom of Kekai. So Sudeshna, Kichak, they are all the children of the king of Kekai, who probably was also a Suta, who also came from the Suta family. And even if not, Kichak and Sudeshna were definitely Sutas. So Kichak is so powerful that Virat, even when Draupadi complains, as Sairantri, when Draupadi complains to Virat that Kichak is trying to violate her and force himself on her, Virat doesn't do anything because Kichak is so powerful. He's leading his entire army. And that is why even Virat Naresh is afraid of Kichak. So he's that kind of a warrior. And when Bhim kills Kichak, Duryodhan actually thinks that Duryodhan gets an idea that the person has to be Bhim because Kichak is so strong that only 3 people could have killed him. Karna, Bhim and Balram. But the other 2 hadn't, so it could be Bhim. So even Karn gets that idea from that. So of course, Kichak is a Suta. So clearly, Sutas were also learning warfare. That is one. The other thing is Sudeshna is Kichak's wife. If Suits were so bad and discriminated, how is it that Sudeshna's daughter, who's Uttara, was married to Abhimanyu? They had a problem with Sut Karna, but they did not have a problem marrying their son Abhimanyu to the daughter of a lady who's actually from the Suta community, even if married to Virat Malaysia. So that's the other thing. Third thing, did was Karna refused by Dronacharya? Did Karna was it that Karna wanted to study and he was refused by Dronacharya because of his jati? Again, no. It is very clearly mentioned in Adi Parva that Adhirath also sent his son Karna to Dronacharya along with the other students of Dronacharya, which were Kauravas, Pandavas, to study warfare. It is very clearly mentioned in Adi Parva. So he was a student, but even there, the line uses Spardhamanastu. He was always competing. Karna was always competing with Arjun. Parthe Arjunen saha Spardhamanastu. Always wanting to compete with Arjun. And the other word used for him is Ati Amarshana, always angry and always having this ahankar and jealousy towards Arjun. Arjun didn't care. Arjun was younger. He was busy studying what he was doing and practicing. But this guy was always jealous of Arjun even at that time. Hence, after some point, Karna wanted to defeat Arjun. So what he did is he went to Dronacharya and said that I want to learn the Brahmastra. Now Dronacharya said, I cannot teach you the Brahmastra. You are not ready for it. In fact, Dronacharya hasn't taught Brahmastra to anybody except the half which he taught to Ashwathama. So at that time, Karna says, okay, if you're not going to teach me the Brahmastra, doesn't matter, I will go to some other teacher. So Dronacharya says, okay, you can go to any other teacher. And that's when Karna goes to Parshuram and lies that he's a Bhargav Brahmin and learns Brahmastra and other weapons from Parshuramji. So again, as this thing about Sud being lower oppressed caste itself is debunked. It's not there, at least for Mahabharata. They were a very well-regarded jati. Second, as I said, Kichak was himself a Sud who was also a warrior. So importance of Sarthi, they were also warriors. Kichak is an example. Sudeshna, whose daughter was married to Abhimanyu, Arjun's son. Third, he was never refused by Dronacharya to not teach him. He was refused the Brahmastra because anyways, Dronacharya did not teach it to anybody. Fourth, the person through whose narration we know the Mahabharata eventually is Ugrashrava Sauti. So the first time Mahabharata was narrated in Janmajaya's Yagna by Vaishampayan, who is the student of Vyasji. So Vyasdev ji composed the Mahabharata, taught it to Vaishampayan. Vaishampayan narrated it in the Yagna of Janmajaya, who's the successor of Parikshit, Abhimanyu's grandson. So it's in his Yagna that Mahabharata is narrated. And Ugrashrava Sauti, who's also a Rishi, he's there amongst the people who heard it. So then he's walking around and he reaches Rishi Shaunak's ashram in Naimisharanya, and the students ask him, where are you coming from? And that's when Ugrashrava Sautiji says that I'm coming from this Yagna where the Mahabharata was recited. And the students want to know the Mahabharata. So this Mahabharata is actually what we, sorry, this is the Mahabharata that we heard, which comes from Ugrashrava Sauti, also another Sut. Yeah, so Suits were so degraded, as we are told, or as so discriminated. How is it that every other Suta in Mahabharata is so well regarded, and Karna is not? Karna is not regarded because of his own vices, because of his own ahankar and krodh and jealousy and matsarya that he has. That is the reason why Karna gets the treatment that he does, and it is not out of any discrimination. Especially not, definitely not because of its jati, because as I said, Sut itself is not really any discriminated jati.
No, you said it very well, because one major misconception, and mostly it comes from Karna was a Surya Upasak. Now, if you look at Ravan is Brahma Upasak and Shiva Upasak. So just because he is worshipping somebody doesn't mean that the qualities he has developed like that. If somebody calls Ravan as a very civilized Brahman Putra is good enough. In Sanskrit, it's called Dvija. Dvija
Yes.
means just like. Dvija. Sorry, it's called Brahma Bandhu, not Dvija.
Mhm.
Dvija means twice initiated, but
Twice.
anyway, is a Sanskari guy is called Dvija, but the he's called Brahma Bandhu. Bandhu means a friend, or he's from the community, but he's not given the title of a Brahman because his actions are different. Karna's actions prove that he was not of the quality, and generally, as even today, like if you join an army, if you are not qualified to handle serious weapons, no country will trust you. It doesn't matter whether you are a prime minister's son or president's son, doesn't matter. Including the one of the princes, Prince Williams or Prince Charles, I do not know, was refused a combat role, not because he did not want to fight, but because it was important for the throne. So he was not given a combat role. So these are practical decisions made based on the qualification of a person. So what is your view on this side of it?
No, absolutely. So the reason Dronacharya refuses to teach Brahmastra to Karna is exactly that he was not qualified, because it's not as if Dronacharya taught it to other Kshatriyas. He did not teach it to Duryodhan. He did not teach it to Yudhishthir or anybody. Not even Arjun. Arjun got it himself later on. Yeah, he got the celestial weapons from Indra and Pashupatastra from Shivji. So teaching Karna was out of question itself, because Karna, as we have seen again and again, does not show that he's responsible enough to handle a weapon of that sort. Sorry. Karna had only one aim in life: to somehow defeat Arjun and nothing else. That is why every time, see, Karna is not from the family of Duryodhan or anybody. Yeah, Karna is an outsider. Still, okay, he now became a friend of Duryodhan, so nobody opposed him. He was always in the palace. He was always interfering in all the discussions. He was always trying to make Duryodhan fight with everybody else, to the extent that the Pandavas were even ready. They said, "Give us just 5 villages." Eventually, after the 13 years of Vanvas ended, they said, "Give us just 5 villages, and we will be okay." But Duryodhan doesn't agree, and Duryodhan doesn't agree because it's Karna who doesn't allow him to settle. Every time somebody says that, "Arey, give it, let them have their share," because a war would be very dangerous, a war would be very deadly. And people would tell him that how powerful Pandavas are and how skilled Arjun is. Every time anybody would say that, Karna would jump in and say, "Arey, main hu na, I'm here. You don't worry. You don't worry. I will take care of everybody. Yeah. You don't worry. I'm going to fight. You don't worry. I will shoo them away. I will kill Arjun." Every time Karna keeps saying it. But what is interesting is that whenever there was a chance where Karna had to show, or whenever he got a chance to show that he's better than Arjun, he either ran away or he failed. Every time, every single time. Yeah. So even when it comes to skill set, he was actually not as good as Arjun. Not that he was bad, he was a good warrior, no doubt. Yeah. Let's take a couple of examples. One is the war. One is when the Pandavas were in that in Dvaita one, in a forest in the 13 years of Vanvas. Karna Shakuni tell Duryodhan that let's go there, let's take all our luxuries, all our women and everybody, and let's go there and show off in front of the Pandavas that they are leading such miserable lives and we are so lucky and we have so much wealth. So they go to that Dvaita one. Now what happens is, even before they meet Pandavas, they get into a tussle with some other tribe, the Gandharva tribe living there. The Gandhavas are very powerful. They actually managed to capture Duryodhan. And in that time, instead of fighting with his friend, Karna, because he's injured, he runs away. And Duryodhan gets captured. The people who help Duryodhan, or rather free Duryodhan, are actually the Pandavas. Yudhishthir sends the 4 brothers to get to free Duryodhan from Gandhavas, because he says at the end of the day, they are still our brothers. So when this happens, Duryodhan, of course, he's freed. He's a free man, but he's very, very upset. He does not want to go back. He's like, I'd rather die than accept that these Pandavas actually saved me. This kills me completely from within to be saved by the Pandavas. So Shakuni at that time is actually saying something sensible. Shakuni says that, Are, see, Pandavas have helped you. Now you be the bigger man and give them their Indraprasth. You have all you need. Why do you care about what is theirs? Let them have it. They did something good to you. You be a bigger man and let it be. Bigger man and let it be. But of course, Duryodhan doesn't want to listen to that. Now at that time, this man Karna, who had run away, he comes back. He comes back and he says, Arey, you don't worry, I will kill Arjun. You don't worry at all. You don't worry. They saved you because you are the king. So it was their responsibility to save you. They are your citizens, they are your subjects. So you don't think that they've done any uppar on you, they've not done any favor on you. You don't worry when the 13 years end, I'm going to kill them. Yeah. And then Duryodhan agrees and he goes away. So Shakuni is also better than Karna. Yeah. So Karna is one who only wants to instigate and make Duryodhan fight. And he only says things which Duryodhan wants. Then again, in the Virat Yuddha, we know that it was the entire Kaurav army and one Arjun who defeated them all. Now, it's very interesting that even within the Kaurav army, if anybody gave any advice which Karna didn't like, Karna would jump in and insult them like anything. So, for example, in this Virat Yuddha, they didn't know who this Brihannala was, who Arjun was. But when Dronacharya sees this figure over there, he's like, it seems like this is Arjun, and if it is Arjun, then there is no way we are going to win this. And he said, look at all the omens, the nimitta, they are also not in our favor. Immediately, nobody had said anything to Karn. Dronacharya was only putting forth his views. Immediately, Karn jumps in. And what he says, we say that Bichara, he was a subject of caste discrimination. Actually, it is, if there is one person who's the most casteist, it's Karn. Karna says that, Arey Duryodhan, what are you listening to these Brahmins? These Brahmins are only good for teaching, otherwise they are cowards. See how he's scared. If nobody wants to fight, let them not fight. I will come and defeat all of them. You just wait and watch. Just imagine. So he's saying this to Dronacharya, who was his teacher at once upon a time. Then later on in another war, when Kripacharya says something, when Kripacharya is trying to tell Duryodhan that, okay, it's been 15 days, you've lost so much. Now at least let it be and end this war. Again, Karna jumps in and he starts saying that, Arey, you all are not in favor of Duryodhan, this, that, lots of things. So Kripacharya says, Arey, you always talk about doing great things, but really you're not able to. You ran away in the Virat war. Virat war you lost. You ran away from the Gandharvas. Even now, Arjun killed Jayadratha right in front of you and you couldn't do anything. So what are you boasting all the time? So when Kripacharya was telling this to Karna, again he became very angry. And he said, wait, he's like, if you say one more word, I'm going to cut your tongue. Just imagine. This is how Karna speaks. Yeah. So as I said before, it is his swabhav. It is his gun which have led to his downfall. It was not about anybody else. It was him and only him, his character, which led to his own downfall and the downfall of all his friends as well. Sorry, this was a longer answer.
No, very truly said, because the character plays a more important role. Like I give an example that you cannot give a very strong weapon in the hands of an unqualified person. And that was the whole criteria behind Eklavya. We'll come back sometime later. Yeah. I have written it, you have written it, many people have written it in that. And the most important, Vyasdev has written it. We are all using the derived knowledge. Now, and another thing comes to, you correctly mentioned, he ran away from all the major wars. And he did not want to fight alongside Bhishma, which is also a disrespect to Bhishma, isn't it?
Oh my God. So that episode, Aditya, I'll take some time to explain that episode. It is so ridiculous. So Bhishma, finally the war is decided. They are all camped now in Kurukshetra. One side is the Pandava camp, one side is the Kaurava camp. And Duryodhan asks Bhishma Pitama that why don't you, I want to know the strength and weaknesses of our side as well as the Pandava side. And you tell us who are the warriors on our side and their side. So there is a classification that is used, which is Rathi, Maharathi, whatever, different kinds of Rathis, people who fight on the chariots, and depending on their skill, they are classified. So Bhishma Pitama, he categorizes this, tells who is who and all of that. And then he says that, but this friend of yours, Karna, I wouldn't call him a Rathi, but not because of his fighting skills. He has warfare skills, but because of his swabhav. That's when actually Bhishma says that he's very gruni, he's very mani, he's very reckless. When it comes to performing, when it comes to showing in action, he has never shown it because of his swabhav, which is such a, which is so full of anger and jealousy and all that. Because of that, and that is why he is not a Rathi. And Dronacharya agrees with the classification. He says, yeah, you are right. It's not his skill, but his swabhav is such that doesn't allow him to perform to his best abilities. Now think of this. Karna wanted this war. Karna did not allow Duryodhan to negotiate at any point in time. As I said before as well, he was like, no, I'm there. You don't worry, you fight the war. Karna wanted this war desperately. Because of Karna, putting faith in Karna, Duryodhana had also agreed to this war. And now when Bhishma Pitama says this, Karna, instead of thinking, Jane do, what is important is my friend. We call him a very loyal friend. Everybody talks about Duryodhana and Karna as very loyal friends. But in the book Mahabharata Unraveled, I have titled a chapter called A Friendship of Doom. And talking about Karna and Duryodhana, how they both led each other's downfall. So anyway, so here, instead of thinking about his friend who was fighting a war, putting faith in Karna, Karna says, how dare Bhishma insult me? This is my insult. Hence, I will not fight. Na yodse jivite gangeyam, as jivati gangeyam. As long as Bhishma is alive, I will not fight this war. Sorry. And the reason he gives, of course, he says I'm insulted. And he says, if I fight, definitely I'm going to be a great warrior. And Bhishma, because he is the commander, Senapati, he will get all the shreya. He will get all the credit for my fighting. He will get credit for my bravery and my courage. Hence, I will not fight because he has insulted me. Now think about it. Is this guy even a loyal friend? He keeps saying that I am what I am because of Duryodhan. I will lay my life for Duryodhan. All this he keeps saying. But when it comes to action, very different from words. Bak karna hai. But action mein kuch nahi dikhana hai. At that time, he doesn't show that, it doesn't matter. Whatever, even if Bhishma has told me just to spite me, I am going to fight this war because I'm doing it for my friend. No, he doesn't think like that. There his ego comes in the middle. And he's like, if Bhishma is going to fight, I will not fight. And he sits out 10 days. First 10 days of the war, Karna sits out. Now, interestingly, just before this decision, Duryodhan asks everybody that in how many days do you think the war will get over? Or in you, if you were fighting alone, how many days can you end this war? So Bhishma Pitama says something like 1 month. Dronacharya says 1 month, 2 months, something like that. Kripacharya says something. Our man Karna says, I will finish everything in 5 days. Yeah, he's claiming this. After this, he decides to sit out. 10 days of the war after Bhishma Pitama falls, that's when Karna enters. And even after that, everybody else is killed. Shakuni, Dushasan, Dronacharya, they are all killed. Still, till the 17th day, Karna is not able to do anything. Even after coming in after 10 days, he was the freshest of everybody. Still, he is not able to do anything till the last day. Then the 17th day is when eventually he also falls to Arjun. Again, not to say that he did not have skill. He probably did. That is why he managed to defeat Yudhishthir, Nakul and Sahadev. Not Bhim. He has lost to Bhim. He has also lost to Abhimanyu. He has also lost to Satyaki at different points in time. Yeah. So it's not as if it's only Arjun who has defeated him. Others have also defeated him. But yes, he defeats Yudhishthir, Nakul and Sahadev. So it's not as if he's bad. He's a worse warrior. He's a good warrior when he manages to defeat others as well. But till the 17th day, he was not able to achieve much else, and then he's killed by Arjun on the last day of the war. Even in that, yeah, people say that Arjun killed him when he was standing on the floor. It was wrong. He broke rules. Even that point is not correct, and I'll say why. On the 14th day, before Jayadratha Vadh, Arjun's focus is completely to kill Jayadratha. So all day, late afternoon, he's fighting. At one point, his horses are very tired. So Krishna says, "Okay, I will wait. I will free the horses. They need some water and food." So he takes the horses away, and Arjun gets out of the rath. He's standing on the ground when the Kaurav army attacks him. Standing on the ground, standing on the ground, Arjun defeats all of them while the horses are eating and getting rested. Yeah. So Arjun is able to do that standing on the ground. Also, when one rath breaks, many other raths can be brought. We know, for example, in Dronacharya's case, Bhim broke 8 of his chariots, and every time a new one was brought in. Karna could have done that as well, but he knew at that point, he was flustered at that point. So he was fighting properly when his wheel went in, and he came down, and he's then thinking about dharma. He's like, no, no, you should follow dharma. I am not ready. You should let me get the wheel out. All that was not needed. All that, if we see the scene, it's very clear he was trying to buy time. And at that time, he's thinking of dharma. And that's what Krishna tells him, that all this while, not once you gave thought to dharma, to what is right and what is not. Be it Draupadi Swayamvar, be it after that, all the schemings that you guys did, all the games you guys played. Even here on the battlefield, 6 of you together killed one Abhimanyu. And you didn't think of dharma then. Now, suddenly, when it comes to you, you are thinking of dharma. And Krishna tells Arjun, don't listen to him, kill him. And that's how Karna gets killed, eventually, with all his vices. Till the last moment, he has no repentance. So that was the Bhishma episode. Sorry, I extended it.
So one of the things is like, for example, when we talk about Karna, you correctly said about all the wars you mentioned, who he was defeated with. War fighting skills, one of the principal qualities of a warrior in our old Kshatriya traditions is humility, Vinamrata, which Arjun had tremendous.
Absolutely.
He was like in today's, when you took a look at good qualities in a man or a warrior, then Arjun had all those qualities. Even today, the Indian army cadets are called gentleman cadets. That quality was there, which we see obviously lacking. But one of the things which people come, and this is the point of view of people, is that it says everybody respects Karna. How can he be called bad? Now, I'm not talking about TV serials, and I'm not talking about media. We are going to talk about the facts in the Mahabharat war. Now, he would do Sandhya Upasana in the morning. That was a culture. That was a tradition. It was part of the basic ethos of the society during that time. That like today, nowadays, everyone gets up and gets a Starbucks in the morning or coffee. But they were not doing that because they were trying to get in the early first thing in the morning, they would get into Sandhya Upasana. So just somebody is religiously following his spiritual side doesn't mean he can be, all of us are actually this world is like a hospital. Our temples are hospitals in a way that we go there to spiritually cure ourselves, remove our bad habits. And that's the whole point of going to a temple. Now, this was a standard norm in the society. Doesn't make anyone special. Don't you think so? Even Arjun did it. Even Yudhishthir did it. Jayadratha also did it. Jayadratha also did it.
That's what, Adityaji. So actually, you think of it, on one end, the people who want to run a propaganda using Karna as this oppressed caste symbol, the hero who's fighting caste discrimination, they don't highlight this point that he was actually doing Sandhya Upasana. How is that? Right? If he was an oppressed jati and stuff, and they tell us that oppressed jati were not allowed all this, then how was Karna doing Sandhya Upasana? That itself is an example to show that jati discrimination with him definitely wasn't there. That is one. Second, if we talk about rituals, about just following rituals, making somebody great, then everybody in Mahabharata is doing it for sure. Even otherwise, people who are villains like Vali and Ravan are doing it. Vali, though we know he would run across four oceans in the morning just to do Sandhya Upasana. Yeah, right. He was that rigorous. Did that make him a good man? No. Just practicing something and not letting that value enter into you does not make anybody good or bad. That is okay. You did it. You did it also to show, possibly, right? Like the Surya Upasana. If you were just doing a home of it, not letting anything enter into you, then what's the point? That does not make anybody a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, one more misconception usually we will talk about. Now, Yudhishthir is told about Karna being his brother by Kunti towards the end, when the Antyeshti is done, towards the end. And Yudhishthir says, and that's why he gives a shrap also, that no woman will be able to keep a secret. Now, now this also, they some people say Yudhishthir was anti-women. They say that also nowadays. Women rights, he was the first against women rights,
Yeah.
and they don't see that he fought the whole war to protect women rights. The whole war was for Sri Ram anti-women, and the Sri Ram killed Ravan for protect one person.
All the way making that bridge across 100 yojans.
That's right.
Yeah.
So like people have no, like, before you try to get into these matters, develop some sensibility of logic and reasoning. Try to put common sense there. Right now, nowadays common sense is most conspicuous by its lack of absence.
Like,
But anyway, so this theory of Karna being a great upasak of Surya, and therefore he was very great, how do you debunk that kind of thing? We already spoke a little bit. Yeah.
Aditya ji, every asur was a great upasak of somebody or the other. They all got some or the other vardhan from either say Brahmadev or somebody, right? From Vishnu, from Shiva. They all got some vardhan. Just by doing upasana, one does not become good or bad, as we were saying, right? All the asurs, they did tapasya for many, many years, we are told. Yeah. So they must have that discipline. They must have that hard work. They put in that effort to get the vardhan. But after they got the Vardhan, what did they do? Why did they fall down? Why are they called Asurs? It's not as if there is a different jati of Asurs or anything like that. But people were called Asurs or Daivas based on their tattvas. Their, like, Gita talks about Asurik tattva. It talks about Devi tattva, and it very clearly says that people who showed that kind of tendencies, lot of ahankar, ambition to destroy everything, ambition to gain control over prakriti, because that is what the dev signify, right? They signify the prakriti. So ambition to control prakriti, ambition to think that nobody can do anything to me, I am the best, and I'm going to show everybody I'm the best, even if it means that it comes at the cost of innocent lives. So they also did puja, they also did all kind of tarpan, they also did all kind of tapasya. That does not make a person good or bad. It is his tattva. Is that Asurik tattva? Is he showing Asurik tendencies? Then definitely Duryodhan Karn are showing the Asurik tendencies. Prayer is a different part of it altogether. Yes, your upasana should eventually lead you on that path of adhyatma. But there are some whom it doesn't, especially people with the Asuric tendencies of the Shadaripu that we say, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsara. All these are showed by both Karna and Duryodhan, especially Matsarya and Mad, the pride, and Matsarya, the jealousy, and Krodh, and Lobh. They want something that belongs to other. These Shadaripu, the excess of these Shadaripu, make them Asuric in nature. And Upasana cannot wash them off that nature. That has to go. They should have done something to take care of that Shadaripu, which they didn't. They died in that Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya.
Yeah, the one of the another thing which comes about Karna is that he was born with golden kavach, and therefore he was a special child, and he was not at all. He is not to be considered like a normal. Now, yes, you and I know it is a special birth due to Surya Dev, but again the quality guna karma matters. Again, same principle. I will be judged on my actions and my qualities, not on what I might have achieved. Even the craziest people achieve high positions. We know that. We have seen that in the world.
Absolutely.
So how that kavach kundal thing is special in the case of Karna?
So Kavash Kundal, as we read it in Mahabharata, that protects him from death. That is what we are told. So if he keeps wearing the Kavash Kundal, he will not die. But that's the thing, right? We see so many people born with a silver spoon. born with some kind of speciality, born with some kind of ability which is different from others. But does that guarantee that a person will succeed in life just because of what he or she is born with? Or eventually it boils down to what do they do with that skill? So was he special? Yeah. Did he have the Tej of Suryadev? Definitely. Yeah. That is why he became such a close friend of Duryodhan and everybody as well, right? So he had that Tej. In fact, we've spoken about him running away, but there is another part which is the Vishnu Yagna, which Duryodhan had done. Yeah. In this Vishnu Yagna, so this happens when the Pandavas are already in Vanvas, and the Virat Yuddha has happened where Arjun alone sort of destroys everybody else. So after that, it's there or after the Gandharva. I think it's after the Gandharva Yuddha. Sorry, after the Gandharva Yuddha, where Duryodhan was captured by the Gandharvas and was then freed by Pandava. So after that, to prove his loyalty, what Karna does is he tells Duryodhan to undertake a Vishnu Yagna, and he goes out to defeat the kings who were opposing Duryodhan, and so that they swear allegiance to Hastinapur, to Duryodhan. Yeah. So he goes to some places, especially I think some parts of north, to and also fights were needed. I think most of them just agree without any fighting, but then there are some whom he fights, gets a lot of wealth for Duryodhan. So definitely he has skills. Yeah. Definitely he is better than most warriors at that time. So it's not as if he does not have skills, but even his skills he is not able to put to best use because of his swabhav. The swabhav just doesn't allow him. So as Bhishma has very rightly said, it is not about his skills. It is his swabhav. It is his reckless nature that even though he has skills, he does not have. He is not able to put it in action because his guna karma, his swabhav, holds him back. He ends up taking the wrong decision. Why? Because he's so impulsive, he's so reckless. He's so driven by Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsara, by so much by Krodh, by so much by jealousy, that in spite of having the skills and the speciality which had the potential to make him really great, but it led to his downfall. Why? Because he did not have the right kind of yogastha buddhi or the right kind of guidance. Actually, guidance he didn't want. People tried to give him feedback. You mentioned one point about humility. I think I would actually want to even add a point on that part, that Arjun was so great a warrior. There was till Babruvahan, eventually after the war and all that, he loses to his son once. He's invincible. Nobody is able to defeat him. He's so good. Even then, there are so many instances where Krishna tells him, "Arey, you are a murkha. Arey, you are doing something like a kid. Arey, you don't understand dharma. You are just stupid." So many times Krishna tells him that. And not once Arjun says, "How dare you say like this to me? How dare, I'm so great. How dare you give me such feedback? How do you call me murkha?" No, instead, whenever he's in problem, Arjun always says that, "Tell me, I am confused." He accepts his shortcomings and tries to learn. On the other hand, what does Karna do? Every time somebody tells him or gives him a feedback, he becomes angry that how dare somebody say something like this to me. In fact, on the 17th day of the war, when Shalya is his Sarthi, right? Duryodhan has requested Shalya and Shalya is the Sarthi. Of course, they have this tussle where Shalya tells him something, Karna tells him something, all that is happening. But till then, it's okay. But then at one point, when Arjun and Karna are fighting, Karna takes a shot. Yeah, he stretches his bow and he's standing. And Shalya actually gives him a good advice. Shalya tells him that your positioning is not correct. It will not hit where you want to hit Arjun. Yeah, it was a good feedback. But what did Karna do? He said, "How dare you tell me what to do and what not to do? Now I will do only this. I'm not going to adjust." And clearly, he shoots the arrow, and instead of hitting Arjun, it hits Arjun's crown. Of course, then they've added something like Krishna pulls down the Rath or something. But even if Krishna wouldn't have pulled down the Rath, the target of Karna was amiss. And that feedback also he did not take. no humility. You just can't tell anything to him. That led to his downfall. So even if he was wearing the Kavach Kundal, I don't think he could have been protected. He definitely would have lost even after that, possibly due to Surya's grace. He may not have died. But the Kavach Kundal was not going to make him invincible, because he was not. It was his Swabhav which had made him liable to fall.
We one last thing comes in, that Krishna met him secretly, and Krishna was trying to persuade him, and Krishna told him the secret of his son, that is birth.
Yes.
And still Karna did not listen to him. How truthful is that? You and I have read Mahabharata, and I want you to answer it.
So, per the Gita Press Mahabharata, definitely Krishna goes and tells him that. See, even at that point, Krishna's view is that if a war can be avoided, one should avoid the war, and there is a reason for that. Yeah, because in the Mahabharata war, 47 lakh people participated, of which 11 warriors were alive, and possibly some soldiers. Everybody else, so almost like 45 plus lakh people died. So it was not an easy war. Yeah, it was not as if it brought a lot of khushi to anybody. It wasn't. It was going to be a dangerous war. Krishna knew it. Everybody knew it. Hence, they were trying till the end to persuade, to ensure that the war doesn't happen. Anyways, as the one last try, what we are told is Krishna goes to Karna and tries to tell him that he's actually the uh, oldest Pandav, because he was born to Kunti, and people, sons who are born out of wedlock also eventually get the name of the husband whom the lady eventually marries. So he says, "You are the Pandav, and and if you come, then they will all accept you, and the war will also be avoided. We just need to tell them that you are the eldest son. They will all accept you." Now here there are two controversies that. Or rather, actually, there's one controversy which people usually talk of. One of it is that Krishna said that Draupadi will also marry you. Draupadi will sleep with you. Hence, you come. Yeah, this is one thing which people usually talk about. Now, it's interesting. The shlok says that Draupadi, Draupadi api agamishyati. Shashte kale Draupadi api agamishyati. This is how the shlok is given. It comes in Bori as well. And it has been translated, unfortunately, by some saying that in the sixth hour, sixth part of the day, Draupadi will come and have intercourse with you. Yeah. So again, a lot of people say that, see, Draupadi was not asked, and Krishna is going and making such misogynistic proposals to Karna and trying to lure him that way. And that makes Krishna look bad. But actually, if you see how this line Shashti Kale Draupadi Mapi Agavishati, very simply it means in the sixth part of the night, Draupadi will also come. Now, before that, what is being said is that there will be a lot of sevaks who come. Abhimanyu, all the kids will, press your legs. They will do your abhishek. They will come and feed you and all of that. So, in that sense, actually, we can also take that Draupadi will come, possibly to feed you, possibly to take care of you. Agamishyati does not translate into intercourse, but some people have. Even if Krishna was trying to imply that, Krishna doesn't talk about it openly. It could have been left to Karna's imagination if that was going to avoid the war. Hence, the translation to say that Krishna said Draupadi will have intercourse with you is itself flawed. Yeah. So that is one controversy around it. The other thing is that what people ask, why didn't Krishna tell Yudhishthir and others that he was their brother? They would have stopped. They would have not fought. Now, here also is the other thing. Karna actually knew about his father. He doesn't get to know from Krishna, first of all, because the Indra episode has happened before that, and Surya himself, the biological father, who is Surya, himself has told Karna. So it's not as if he doesn't know. Yeah, so it is not news to Karna when Krishna tells him about it. So the other thing which is told is, why did Krishna tell Karna and not go and tell the others? Because Karna specifically mentions that you don't go and tell Pandavas, because else they will not fight. And we've known till now that Karna only wants to prove that he's better than Arjun, and he wants to fight Arjun at any cost. Yeah. So the news that Krishna gives him is also not new to him. He was always aware. So if he wanted to do something about it, he could have done before as well. But he doesn't. So it was not. So he knew it and he didn't do anything about it. So when Krishna also comes and tells him, he knows it, but he doesn't want to do anything about it. In fact, he tells Krishna that I see omens against us. I see omens that Yudhishthir will win, but I will still stick to to Duryodhan and we'll fight. Are you have all this information. You can change the course of history. You have this chance on platter, but he didn't do anything about it. So does Karna know only through Krishna? No. And the whole intercourse thing is, I don't agree with that translation.
No, the first of all, Draupadi was Krishna's sister. Krishna says it. So Krishna will never imply that. That is
Exactly.
by default. Okay, number and second is meeting Draupadi means to satisfy his desire to see Draupadi. Not to, because Draupadi to take her darshan was also very difficult, impossible. She was dragged out of her inner chambers when she was Ratisrava, when she was in her monthly periods. That time she was dragged out. And that was the only time many people saw Draupadi other than the Pandavas. Okay, even the Bhishma and other people, they put their eyes down. They did not want to see that picture also. And Draupadi had only one question: what is happening with me? Is it right or wrong? Is it according to dharma or wrong? That's the one question she asked. Nobody could answer, including Bhishma. A very famous answer. Bhishma says that the codes of dharma are very difficult to
Very
decipher.
sukshma, yeah.
Very clear, right? Now, when we come to this, accusing Krishna or that he was allowing that to happen, that is completely ruled out because it's not possible. In the entire
Correct.
episode, Krishna wanted to finish all the four people beforehand, but Yudhishthir stopped them. That it's
Correct.
my duty. Krishna would have finished all four of them. If you could fought with Jarasandha 17 times with one Akshani soldiers alone, then this two Akshanis is 17 Akshani soldiers together 18 is not deal for
Yeah.
him. So so now with debunking all these things, when you look at the overall personality of Karna, in one word, how you describe it?
I would use two, jealous and vicious. I think jealousy is the biggest thing and very vicious. He doesn't care for anybody else beyond his own ahankar and his jealousy. Not his friend, not his mother, not his family, not the samaj, just absolutely nobody. Hence, jealous and vicious are the two words I will, if I have to use only two, these two is what I'll use.
And bringing it to the current parlance, which one country on the borders of India meets that description? We don't have to say it in a name.
We
Okay.
have heard in this age lots of them, yes.
Correct. And lots of
course-
Dushasans also. Lots of Dushasans also.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is how you make Mahabharata relevant to you, because you study these characters. That's the point I want to bring in. And you can see these characters are present today as individuals, as nation states also. And so you have to make appropriate strategy to identify who is the Karna, who is the Ghatotkacha, who is Dushasan. And even religions have the same thing, where one very famous person said, Christianity is like Dushasan. And so like, just enjoy, make merry, just have fun. So we have to learn from Mahabharata. These characters teach us a lot in our current lives. And also it will help us to build a stronger Bharat. Bharat is not just the British map of India, which is today. Bharat was one time called the whole planet Earth. And sending dharma out, when people quote a Western author, I feel so little. Living in the United States for so long, I have never quoted a Western author. I always quote Suta Goswami, Shukdev Goswami, Vyasadev, Narada, Matanga Rishi, Shadbringar, like so many people we can quote from. And quoting a small 13th century European scholar, 14th century European, it looks so small. And if you look at from where they come from, literally they've killed all the natives of Europe and now they're teaching us morality.
Absolutely.
It's a shame on us. Anyway, thank you, Ami. It's a wonderful talk. I love to talk to you because you know your topics very well. And with you and me, we didn't prepare this talk. We were just talking normal. It's just that she has also studied it. I have studied it, and we just got the title, and it's a totally unprepared. Like all the talks in Sathology, we don't prepare anything. I don't prepare anything. It's just the whole life has been a preparation. So thank you so much, Amy, and have a wonderful evening. And thank you all the
Thank
viewers
you.
for watching. Have a wonderful day on the East Coast, West Coast, and it's early morning here. Good morning to everyone, and enjoy your day. Namaste.